Hey guys, Janet here, aka Gameonysus, and today I'm going to be talking about the games I beat in 2017. Let's take a look. So I'm just going to go straight for my list. I have this documented in Groovy as well, so if you watched the last video, you'll know what Groovy is. But I also handwrite my games that I've beaten as well in my planner. So we'll just go in the order that I beat the games in. Only a few of these are physical copies, some of them are digital, and then one was a game I rented on Redbox and beat and then returned within a day, so, saving money. First up, we have Pokemon Moon. So this is a game I actually did get in 2016. I started it in November, but I didn't finish it until this year at the end of January. And it took me about 75 hours and 31 minutes to beat this game. I think that's more than you kind of need to do. I didn't really completionist it in any way. I didn't get to any of the post game, and I did get the guide for this actually because I'm like, I'm gonna go into the post game and do a bunch of stuff, and then I did not because I was exhausted after beating this. This is one of the few Pokemon games I've actually beaten. I love Pokemon. I love the series, as you guys can probably tell, but I just haven't played through a whole lot of the games in their entirety. So I was excited to get into this and feel, refreshed and ready to take on, the next entry in the franchise. I loved, Rowlet and all of that. And I loved how you could customize your character a lot and go shopping. So this was a really fun one. And I'm glad I saw it through. And I thought the story was actually pretty interesting, as far as Pokemon games go, at least. I thought there was some stuff there that I was intrigued by and wanted to know more about. So yeah, that was that one. So that's the first game I beat. After that, I beat a game that I don't have with me because I Redboxed it. I beat Resident Evil 7, and I'm, repping Resident Evil today. I actually beat this game with my friend Jess, so I did have some kind of tag team things and multiplayer things in the list of games I beat for 2017, and that was the first game I beat with someone else. So what we did is we just passed the controller back and forth based on time or whenever anyone died, and we actually rented it from Redbox. We got it at night and then played all throughout that evening, and then we slept a little bit, and then we woke up, and then we did it again until the game was beaten, and then our goal was to return it before the time limit was up for Redbox, so that we only had to pay for one day, which I think was maybe $3. So we got the entire Resident Evil 7 experience for about $3 or $5, however much a Redbox rental is. So that was awesome, and it was actually my first Resident Evil game and first survival horror game, so there was a lot of new stuff going on, but I played with my friend Jess, who knows the series really well. I actually did, on the channel I used to have, that I had with my friend Jess, we actually did a kind of recap video, so I'll definitely link that in this video if you guys want to check that out and hear my thoughts more in depth on Resident Evil 7. I thought it was a really, really fun game. I loved the puzzle solving of it. I loved Lucas. He was my favorite character in that game. And it was just a really good time. And it's really fun to just get a survival horror game and turn off all the lights, and then and also be with someone else so that you can kind of share in the intensity of it. But it also makes it a little bit more manageable because I'm a very easily scared person, and I didn't want to play Resident Evil 7 alone, so I was really glad to have her with me for that. So the next game I beat was Night in the Woods. Night in the Woods is an indie game. It's available on PS4 and a couple other platforms as well, Mac, Linux, PC, if you can just get off Steam. And it's an adventure game, but it's mainly story-driven and dialogue-driven, as a good amount of adventure games are. I did not like this game pretty much at all. I just basically, the only reason I beat it was because it's fairly short, and I did like parts of it, and I was excited to get into the game, but the more I started to explore the game and the world, gameplay-wise, it gets pretty repetitive. I know it is kind of just go talk to people, and then, choose your dialogue, and, just kind of experience the characters and the universe and all of that and the story, but it just didn't hold up for me. I really hated May. That was the main character. She was just super she definitely had her drama and stuff, but she just was super privileged and yuppie and polarizing, and I didn't think she was actually that well written. It's kind of an unpopular opinion, but I just really didn't like that game. I wrote articles on that as well, which I'll link to if you want to get more in depth on that, but that was Night in the Woods. I will say the ending was really, really good and really interesting. So it's definitely one of those games that I didn't like it, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's not a good game. Like, it's not a good game to me, and I wouldn't give it like a great rating, but if someone played it and loved it, I could like see how that could be possible. It definitely had some redeeming qualities to it. So look it up, read other stuff from other people if you're kind of interested in it, but definitely was not a fan. Speaking of not being a fan, the next game I beat, and this game kind of comes up a couple times in my list. I do have a copy of it here. Uncharted. The Uncharted collection. I got this for Christmas in 2016 because I wanted it. Because everyone told me that this was a great franchise, it's a must-have, especially if you didn't play it on PS3, which I didn't. And then I played it. And the game is in here, actually. So, just the things I went through playing this game. So I actually did play this game with my brother, and we did the tag team, pass the controller back and forth thing for it. And we didn't intend to do that, but I watched him start playing it, and it was really fun. It was like, you had some fun shooting. It was fairly easy to pick up. The point of entry was really low in terms of like gaming skill. Like, you can kind of just jump in and figure it out and do fine. And I love the action of it. And I really loved Sully. I still love Sully, so I will say that. Sully's a real one. But then, like, in Uncharted 1, in the first Uncharted game, it's like everything's going good, and like to me it kind of struck me as like kind of a basic game, but like still fun. Like, just like a good, fun, basic, simple game that isn't like, groundbreaking, but you can have a really good time with. And then it became something that was not that. So basically, after like a good chunk of the first Uncharted game, which is it Drake's Fortune is what it's called. That's what during Drake's Fortune, like once you get to like the final third of the game, you're like, it's all really the same stuff. You're shooting like the same, like all the enemies feel like very literal copy and paste. It's like there's the guy in this armor and the guy in this other armor and the guy in like the guy that's really big. And that just gets really boring after a while. Like, the gameplay doesn't change at all and nothing else changes, and it just feels like this game goes a little bit too long for the first one. But the number one reason that not the number one reason I don't like Uncharted, but one big reason I don't like Uncharted, which is kind of spoilery, is they always pull this weird supernatural stuff in there. So, like, out of nowhere, they're just like, oh, it's like it's cursed and there are like zombies, or oh, there's like this crazy Yeti creature. It's actually just someone in a mask. That really bothered me. They Scooby-Doo'd the whole gaming audience, and I was really upset about that. Other things I really hated about this franchise, it kind of just felt like you were playing a bad / very basic action film. So it just felt like really mediocre and repetitive, and the puzzles were like super simple, but also just really annoying to have to do sometimes. And it's not good. And they have so many QuickTime events in this game. So many QuickTime events. And QuickTime events are almost never fun, in my opinion. So it just wasn't good. But I beat all of them. I beat Uncharted Drake's Fortune. I beat Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. I beat Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception. I will not go and play Uncharted 4. I will not. And I will not play Lost Legacy, even though I do like Chloe a lot. But yeah, this was a lot to get through, and I kind of wish I didn't experience it. So if you haven't played this game, don't. So I also count games that I've replayed as games I've beaten in a calendar year. So one game that I went back and decided to replay for kind of my Throwback Thursday gaming sessions. Every Thursday for a while in the year, I was playing an hour of a retro game. And I felt like I wanted to go back to Super Mario 64. This is one of my favorite games of all time by a lot. You guys can probably tell that I'm a big Nintendo fan, a huge Mario fan. So this game is really, really special to me. And I'm so happy that I bought a copy where it's like in the box and it has the manual and everything. It has some adhesive that I have to get rid of. But yeah, this is just such a great game. So much fun. It really holds up still. I'd say the worst parts of this game, playing it today, are the camera angle can get kind of wonky um, and impede your progress, especially at the very last time you fight Bowser. I find the camera to be awful. And it'd be kind of the main thing. I mean, the N64 controller still isn't, great. Like, it doesn't really, it's like a weird controller. So, other than those two things, it really, really holds up. And if that really bothers you, you can always play it on the DS. Although I don't like that version because they make you start off as like Yoshi in a Mario hat, and it's like weird. But yeah, this was super awesome. I had so much fun with it. I was shocked to find that there are so many like goofy, crazy things that happen and random weird deaths that you can have. I felt like very like Breath of the Wild in that sense of having these crazy stories of incidents that have occurred, like me like falling from a really strange place, or when the bird takes your hat. And there's just kind of like weird little things that happen. I know that some of those things are things that everyone will experience, so I'm not trying to say it's like Breath of the Wild, but I had a lot of like fun, goofy stories from this game that I wasn't expecting at all. So I loved replaying this. It was awesome. I just kind of replayed it to beat it. I didn't get like all the stars, but I had a really, really good time with this. And I found the last Bowser battle to be super, super hard because I just didn't, you have to throw him into those spikes, and he just never seemed to hit the spikes, and I just don't know. But this game's so great. Once again, I'm really happy to have the box and the manual and everything. So that was Mario 64. Next up, so 2017 was kind of a year of a lot of pushing through games I didn't really like for the experience and the knowledge and kind of figuring out what my tastes are, and then also sometimes I want to write articles or do videos on them. The next game I beat in 2017 was Until Dawn. Until Dawn is a like adventure horror game where you're making these decisions, trying to figure out who lives and who dies, and you're trying to survive this weekend at the woods until dawn is what's going on with that. And it's not good. The narrative is just really like contrived and weird, and everything's like very archetypal and like over the top teenage drama and angst. And yeah, it wasn't fun to play. I wasn't excited by the narrative at all. You get to switch, like they have you like playing as different characters throughout the game, which is kind of interesting, but you never really get like fully invested in anyone. And the gameplay is super dull because it's literally just like quick time events. It's like you're running, and then like it's like, okay, hit square, hit triangle, and like you have to do all these things like really quickly. And sometimes, and I was playing with my friend, we were kind of trying to make the decisions together, so it was like go left or go right, and before you could kind of think through the decision, you kind of already have to make it, which I think was supposed to try to mirror the immediacy of what the characters would be going through, but it just made for bad gameplay. And yeah, and then there was like a lot of things going on, like they're like, is it a murder? Is it like some weird Freudian psychology? Is it like, these creatures? Like there was just a lot happening in the game, and yet nothing really going on. It was not good. But I beat that, and I marathoned that. And I really, really didn't want to beat that game, but I was playing it for the channel I previously had, Bit, and we want to talk about it and review it. So if you're interested to hear more, I can link that review on this video. But yeah, I was not a fan of Until Dawn. But I did get it for free via PlayStation Plus, so I don't know. Everyone also told me that game was good, and it wasn't good, so I'm kind of upset. I don't know. I don't know why people think that game is good. It's not. Another game I beat this year was Kirby for the NES, or the Mini NES, or NES Classic Edition, whatever name you choose to call it. So I got an Mini NES during this past year, or during 2016, I forgot when these came out. And I love Kirby, so I figured, all right, well, let me go ahead and finally play this Kirby game that I've never played. So I did that. It was awesome, great game. So many like weird power-ups and things because it's Kirby and it always gets crazy. And there's a lot of really fun mini games in that Kirby game specifically. Just, you know, random things involving like tossing a bomb or like playing a crane game or things like that. So there's a lot of like fun stuff in between. It's level based, as like is pretty typical of a Kirby game. And yeah, it was really, really exciting and like enjoyable and pleasant, and it wasn't too difficult. The end boss was kind of hard to me, but other than that, it was like fairly simple to get through. So it was just a really nice part of my year. Really liked playing that game and really liked actually getting some use out of this. I don't play it a lot. Most people that have it don't play it a lot. But that was actually something I really wanted to dive into, and I was glad I got to do that. I beat the campaign of Splatoon 2. I had Splatoon 1 and actually never played that campaign at all, but I figured I already bought the game. The campaign's not that long. Let me give it a go. It was pretty fun. I wouldn't say it's a must-play in any way. I think it's pretty basic. It doesn't really like do anything super exciting or innovative, but it was kind of also a fun way to like get to use other weapons because they'll have you use like a specific weapon for a certain level or world or something. So that was kind of fun to get to play with those, maybe get some background for what you might want to take into Turf Wars or Ranked or something. And the platforming was pretty enjoyable, and it's, you're like shooting and adventuring through these levels. So I would say this was overall good. I enjoyed it. And the bosses are really, really fun in this too. I feel like this campaign is like super video gamey. Like it knows it's a game, but not in a super obnoxious way. And it's just like very like ridiculous, over the top, and kind of goofy. So I had a good time with it. I think it's at least worth playing a few levels and seeing if it grabs you. Another game I beat this year was Oxenfree, and I played it on Nintendo Switch. Oxenfree is an adventure game. The premise is that you're Alex, this girl and her friends, and you're going to Edward's Island for a get-together that you guys do every year, basically. And what ends up happening is there's like this kind of tear in space and time that occurs, or yeah, I think that's kind of the easiest way to explain it. And you're stuck trying to figure out how to fix what's going on, how to figure out what's going on, how to survive what's going on and get off the island, while kind of, saving friends and navigating your relationships kind of in the midst of this crazy sci-fi phenomenon that's going on. And I love this game. It's so, so good. I think a lot of people, it was pretty much well received generally, but I know some people are kind of like, oh, it's all right. Like, I really love this game. It's honestly one of the best games I've played in my entire life. There was just like so much honesty and emotion, and I thought the dialogue choices were really, really well written. There are almost no like cringe moments in this game, and that's something that adventure games, visual novels, any game that's story and dialogue driven tends to fall into those kind of pitfalls of the genre, but this one really avoids it. I love that for the dialogue you actually can choose to say nothing at all, which is refreshing. You don't always get that feature in these types of games, and all the dialogue choices just felt really like genuinely human. Like nothing was too extreme. It all felt like things that I might say or that someone would say. So I really like enjoyed that. I felt like I got to know Alex as a character, even though I was also like developing her as a character because I made her choices. You have to like decide how you're building these relationships with people. You have a brother who passed away named Michael, but he kind of in some form, kind of like via a flashback, I'm not going to give too much away, you get to know Michael as well as a character, and seeing Alex's relationship with her brother Michael was just, really beautiful and heartfelt and touching. And the narrative itself was just really interesting too with what was going on. It was very creepy and eerie. Definitely a good like Halloween game. And definitely a must play, I would say. Even if you don't like the adventure or story-driven or visual novel genre, if you find those games to be boring or if you've just never been interested in them, I think Oxenfree is definitely a good entry point for you guys if you fall into that boat. And if you love those genres, then you're definitely going to like this game. I thought it was really, really well done. And the art was also really nice. Visually, it had like this nice aquatic look to it. I actually did a video review of that on my previous channel as well, so I will link that for you guys if you want to hear more about my thoughts on Oxenfree. Super Mario Odyssey. Of course, I could not have not beaten this game. This was like a number one game I was looking forward to, I would say, in the year. And it really lived up to the hype, or to the excitement, I guess. So, not going to talk too much about Odyssey, you guys are probably pretty familiar with, but the next entry in sandbox Mario genre, which is probably my favorite type of Mario, I would say, Super Mario Odyssey. So this game's awesome. You have Cappy, and you have this capture mechanic where you get to throw your head at enemies, and then you become the enemy, and then you can use that to fight off other enemies or explore or do whatever. Yeah, it's just really like fun and heart and like, you know, lighthearted, and the platforming is like really good. And I love how this game is so different than every other Mario game we've seen, and yet it like feels like it really honors the history of what the Mario franchise is, and celebrates it. So it feels like a love letter to the series itself. And as a lifelong Mario fan, like that's more than I could have ever wanted. So yeah, this is really competitive for me for favorite Mario game ever. Like 64, you know, it has that place in my heart that like I don't think anything can really replace fully, but this really is really competitive with that, I would say, and is the best game since Mario 64, I think. The next game I beat was also a game that I replayed from my childhood, and that was Yoshi's Island for the SNES, or rather the mini SNES or the SNES Classic Edition. Yoshi's Island, another one of my favorite games. The SNES in general was actually the first system I ever owned, and I'll talk about that more maybe in a different video. But that being said, Yoshi's Island is probably not the first video game I ever played, but it's the first video game I can remember playing, so to me, it's like my first game. And I really loved it when I was a kid. I thought it was like really hard, even though it really isn't. But then when I played it again, I'm like, it kind of is hard. Like there are definitely some hard parts of this game, for sure. But yeah, God, I love Yoshi games. They're so, like, especially this one, it has like that beautiful cartoon visual art aesthetic to it, and it's great. The music's awesome. It just feels like such a lighthearted adventure. Like Nintendo games just have like that, you know, whimsy and magic and adventure to it. And, you know, I know people joke and criticize that Nintendo's like the kiddie console, but like, man, the platforming and stuff is so good. I love, just like with Kirby, Yoshi has so many like weird forms he takes, especially in this game specifically. You know, he's like a helicopter and he's a submarine and all that. So, yeah, it's just a really, really great game. I loved replaying it. The end boss is also just really, really hard. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it, but finishing this game was so, so satisfying. And once again, I'm glad I had a reason to actually play my little mini console, because I know that I don't really play these very much, even though I worked so hard to get it, and I know so many people want it, so I kind of feel bad if I don't play it at least a little bit, so I'm glad I had a reason to visit this. Yeah, so another game I beat was Graceful Explosion Machine for Nintendo Switch, so it's also available on other platforms as well. And this game was developed by Vertex Pop. It's definitely one of my favorites of the year, of my personal gaming year, at least. So it's a shmup, or shoot 'em up, so that means that you're adventuring through and you're just trying to defeat all these enemies, and that's it, and you shoot them. That's what a shmup is. That being said, it is like not as hard as other shmups I've encountered, because it doesn't do the thing where, like, a lot of, when I think of a shmup, I think of like a set pattern of like these enemies, and you have to weave through like these, you know, this bullet hell fire coming at you. And with this, it's not really the case. You do have a lot of enemies, and it actually is quite challenging, but you're not so much trying to memorize patterns as like navigating what types of enemies are coming at you, what their attacks are, and thinking about how you can use your weapons, which I believe you have 4, if I'm remembering correctly. You have different guns, and like how you can best utilize that to get through whatever situation you're placed in. So I thought it was really, really good. I loved it. It has like such a nice arcade vibe to it, and it's just one of those games you can put on and just kind of get lost in, arcade style, where you're just like fully immersed in the game itself and not really thinking about anything else, just really focused. And it has like this like really cutesy art style to it. Everything's pastel colored. Your little spaceship looks like candy corn, so it's really cute. So definitely a game I recommend on a couple levels, right? If you like cute games, if you like arcade games, if you're like shmups, if you like a game that you can kind of just put on and like zone out to in a way, this is definitely one for you, right? It's level based, the progression's very clear cut, but it still feels really satisfying to get through and beat because it was a bit challenging. So I think there's something for everyone in Graceful Explosion Machine, and I'm like really glad I picked it up. And it's fairly cheap too. I'm gonna guess it's like maybe $13 on the eShop, maybe. And that's fairly reasonable, especially for what it is. I think it was a really, really good game. Little Nightmares, I played that on Xbox One. Little Nightmares is definitely one of those games that's in the vein of Unravel, Limbo, Inside. It has that kind of aesthetic to it, that creepiness. It is a classic game where you have a cute character in a dark, scary, evil world, which is really my taste in games, to be honest. Like, I love that setup. As many times as I see it, I still enjoy it. And the platforming gameplay works a lot like it does in Inside, I would say. So maybe it's not so much like Limbo, but more like Inside and Unravel. But if you're not familiar with those games, what this means is you're kind of an underpowered character, so you're really small in this giant, scary world, and most of your like movesets are related to you can run, you can jump a little bit, but not much, and you can like kind of pull things and manipulate the area around you. So you're like doing some light puzzle solving. You're trying to figure out, okay, how can I get past this area? How can I escape this thing? You're not really attacking at all. There was one scene where you're kind of like more on the offensive. Mainly you're just trying to evade. And Little Nightmares is, the premise is that you are this small child, I forgot the child's name, and you kind of just end up in this creepy like hotel boat place, and you don't really know much as the player. You just know that you're like, I'm gonna continue through and try not to die, and then as you progress, more and more of the story somewhat starts to present itself. Like, it's really vague what this is about. It's definitely one of those like, what does it mean, like what are the themes, and I know it's kind of a turn off to some people, and I kind of just mocked it right now, so it's probably not good. But yeah, it's basically the premise of the game. Something I thought was really awesome about it was it had like a lot of like genuinely terrifying moments, because like a lot of it is really well made. So you have moments where you just will barely escape something, and all of the like creatures or like kind of disfigured people or really like large individuals and beings and things, everything just looks like really grotesque and creepy and weird, and the things that you don't see are more disturbing than the things you do see. So it's just like a horrifying, intense experience, and the sound design's really good. Like, the music here, it just really like creates like this just eerie and terrifying ambiance. Oddly enough, though, this game is one of those games where I'm like, this is completely up my alley. This is 100% my aesthetic. I was super looking forward to it. But then about like 2/3 through, I just like, or even maybe like 2/4 through, I just kind of lost interest in it. I don't really know what it is about the game, because I think it's good, but it just didn't connect with me, and I've never been able to figure out why. And I almost didn't finish it for that reason, because I'm just like, I just don't want to do this. I'm not having a good time with it. I just don't want to do it anymore. But I was so close to the end that I'm like, you know what, let me finish it. And overall, I'm glad that I did see it through, but yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I loved Unravel. I loved Inside, but like, this one didn't click for me. But if you like those two games, definitely check it out, because I think a lot of people will just fall in love with it if you're into those two games or into kind of the things I just described. But for some reason, it just didn't connect. I don't know why. The next game I beat was another game on Nintendo Switch. This is another game I was looking forward to a lot, and I know you guys are going to think this is ridiculous, but it honestly was actually pretty good. So let's see if it's still queued up right here. Yes, it is. All right, well, it won't completely focus on what it is, but it's a game called Mom Hid My Game, and it's awesome. So at first I was like, oh, this is kind of like, well, when I first saw it, I was like, I so want this game. But then when I started playing it, I'm like, this is like not that satisfying. But then when I like played it a little bit more, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. So Mom Hid My Game is a like point and click puzzle game, available on Nintendo Switch. I'm pretty sure some other platforms as well, though don't quote me on that. Um, and it has quite a few levels. So in total, there will be 50 levels, and in each level, you're just trying to find where your mom hid your game. So, you know, you'll start off with, it's based on days, like day 1, day 2. So I guess every day she's hiding this game. You just kind of click on things. One nice thing about playing this on Switch too, is that since it's you can just use touchscreen controls for it, which I think makes the point and click aspect of it a little bit more enjoyable. Like I don't like dragging a joystick over to actually click on things when I play games that are point and click. So I always love it on touchscreen platforms. So you're like finding where your game is, but what makes this game worth playing, I think, is some of the puzzles are a little intriguing. If you played Bulb Boy, they kind of have a similar like line of thinking where it's like sometimes they'll have you like combine items sort of to solve a puzzle, or you'll have to think about like, okay, if this is here, how can I make, you know, if this is A, how can I get to C? And you have to figure out what B is, kind of. That's not like the best explanation of it. But the other thing that's really cool about this is it's super, super ridiculous. Like the stuff they have you, like some of the solutions to these puzzles are just like really funny and odd. Like there's one where there's like an elephant in the room and you have to like feed it, and then it defecates on the floor, and in there is your game, but you can't just grab the game. You have to like wipe all the crap off of it, literally. So you get like a rag or something. It's like weird stuff like that. There's a lot of cool stuff happening in this game. You know, like your mom will be hiding in certain spots. Like she'll be behind the curtain. It'll be like really obvious her feet are there, and if you click on her, you get a game over because she caught you. Other things that are cool about this game too, if you get stuck, there are hints, and you have to like, they kind of make you work for the hints. Like you have to flip over these cards to get like access to your hint. And if they don't match up right, you can get like another kind of game over and have to do it again. So there's a lot going on. It didn't take me too long to beat it. Yeah, I played it for like about like at least an hour, maybe a little bit more than an hour. So it's a fairly short game to get through. And yeah, I had a good time with it. I think if you like puzzle games and you want something a little goofy and strange, Mom Hid My Game is definitely a good one to pick up. And the ending was quite profound, I found. So definitely check it out. I almost forgot to mention this game. I don't know why I blanked on it, but I beat another game in 2017. And it was not Uncharted. It was Gears of War Ultimate Edition. I beat this with my friend Peter. Shout out to Peter Starr. I'll link his stuff. He does like streaming and all that, and he's on Twitter, and he's awesome. So we co-opted this game together, and it was a lot of fun. I like this game a lot, actually. It's pretty straightforward. The gameplay is not too rigorous. I'm not that great at shooting in general, because it's just not my genre really at all. But this is just like pretty easy to pick up. And it's like, there's like a lot of like gross like melee kills, and yeah, I just enjoyed it. It's like a good bro-y game that I had a fun time playing, especially if you do a co-op, which I did, and it was a positive experience for me. And this was definitely a lot easier coming off of Halo and all with the Uncharted shooting skills I built. Those really just transferred right over. And the very last game I beat, well, not the last game I actually beat in 2017. The last game I beat in 2017 was Uncharted, the third entry in the Uncharted series. But the last game on my list that I want to talk to you guys about is a game called The Wheels of Aurelia, which I also played on Nintendo Switch. This game is usually like $9.99 on the eShop. I got it on sale for like $6.99. And it is an adventure game as well. The premise is that you're driving in Italy and you're like with a friend, and It's a really, really short game. Like the game can be beaten in like 18 minutes or like 30 minutes, but there are 16 endings you can get. And I played this one also with my brother, and we got about I want to say 9 or 10 or 11 of the endings because we decided that to beat the game, we'd need to get at least 8 of the endings, at least half of the endings. So, and each time you play it, like more stuff opens up. So it's like a pretty simplistic game. Visually, it doesn't look very impressive like during the game itself, I think, to a lot of people. Like I was fine with it, but I think some people might be underwhelmed by the look of it. But what I think is really cool about this is the story is just genuinely really interesting, and the endings you get are all so drastically different and crazy. Like at one point, one of the endings involved us being like addicted to heroin. One involved us being, a mom. One involved us being, living on a farm and thinking that everything's fine, but then turns out it wasn't. Like there's just the breadth of endings is really insane. One thing I think that's really cool that, like I said, each time you play it and get new endings, like more things kind of open up. Like suddenly there are more people that you can like pick up on the road as you're driving. And there's, you unlock more cars, and that has the potential to maybe change things. I'm not sure if it's just aesthetic or if it's also narrative driven. But yeah, there's a lot going on. It's like there's like a lot of surprising depth to this game, which I think a lot of people might not expect just looking at it on the surface. So yeah, Wheels of Aurelia, definitely check it out. The music is awesome in this game. And the other thing I really like about it is the fact that it's mainly, a dialogue-driven game where you're just choosing your dialogue, but it's also like a racing game. Now the driving doesn't really like come like super to the forefront of the gameplay, but there are a few moments in the narrative where you have the opportunity to race other people, and it's like I find it quite entertaining. I think some people might be like, oh, it's so simple, like whatever, but I thought the racing was pretty well done, or not necessarily well done, but it just kind of added an extra thing to spice up what was going on in the game, especially for players who want something more than just dialogue choices. This satisfies that still too. But yeah, Wheels of Aurelia, definitely check it out. Very underrated game. I haven't heard anyone talking about it. So play it, spread the word. It was awesome. Those are now all the games I beat in 2017. So there were quite a lot. I beat 18 games, and in 2016 I beat 17 games, so my goal for 2018 is to beat 19 games or more. So once again, the list of games I beat in 2017 were Pokemon Moon, Resident Evil 7, Night in the Woods, Uncharted Drake's Fortune, Gears of War, Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, Super Mario 64, Until Dawn, Kirby, Splatoon 2, Oxenfree, Super Mario Odyssey, Yoshi's Island, Graceful Explosion Machine, Little Nightmares, Mom Hid My Game, and Wheels of Aurelia. Those are all the games I beat. It was a lot, but definitely worth it. So glad I saw this through. It is so hard to beat games. Definitely comment below and let me know if you also played any of the games I mentioned, what you think of those games. But most of all, comment below with the list of games you guys beat in 2017, because I'm sure it looks a lot different than what my list is. Or, I don't know, maybe it looks the same. Let me know. But other than that, guys, be sure to like and subscribe. Make sure you click the bell so you can get notifications whenever I post a video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.